Hello everyone and welcome to today's edition of the Cheat Meal presented by Deep Fried Draft. My name is Brian Bosarge. We got a jam-packed episode today. The craziest trade deadline that I can recall ever in the NFL. We got a bunch of those. We're going to get to that in just a second. We got some college football news to get to and 13 games to preview. 14 games I'm watching this week, but one was last night, so not really going to preview a game that's already happened. But we got 13 games to get to. But first, we're going to jump right into the college football news. And we'll start with an injury first. Middle Tennessee State senior wide receiver Richie James had been dealing with other injuries. Now he's out for the season with a broken collarbone. No surgery required for a James. But I would think that that's going to keep him out of the All-Star game circuit. But he should be okay for a combine if he is invited and or his pro day. Now, the big head coach news of this week was Jim McElwain, the Florida head coach, is fired. Could be for wins and losses, could be for ineptitude of his offense. It could be over something to do with he says he was getting death threats, but didn't really provide any information to the university to back up those death threats, so they settled on a buyout. His buyout was $12 million. It's reported that he's going to get $4.5 million of the $12 million to go away. But his offense, he's an offensive background, could never get the offense going. He won 2 SEC East division titles because the division was so poor those last couple of years, and basically he rode Will Muschamp's defensive recruits to those first 2 East Division titles. Couple names to keep an eye on to replace him. Keep an eye out at UCF and Scott Frost, the former Oregon offensive coordinator, former Nebraska quarterback. His team is lighting the scoreboard up down in Orlando, and they are currently undefeated. So his name is going to be tied to a lot of jobs, but you have to think that if Florida comes with the Bucks, Scott Frost is probably going to be heading to Gainesville. And just a short jaunt up I-75. Anyway, and also Dan Mullen is a name to keep an eye on, the Mississippi State head coach. The Bulldogs, again, having a good season. Mullen was the offensive coordinator at Florida when Tim Tebow was there and under Urban Meyer. So they may want to try to replicate that success that they had. Also, the current athletic director at Florida was the athletic director at Mississippi State that hired Mullen. So there is that tie there. Now let's get into the NFL trade deadline that expired at 3 p.m. Central yesterday. We'll back it up. We'll cover all the trades, not necessarily the deadline day trades, but all the ones that happened in the last week. And we'll start with the first one that broke the ice, so to speak. And Jacksonville acquired defensive lineman Marcel Darius, the former All-Pro, from the Bills in exchange for a 6th-round pick in 2018. Darius is off-field, and his production has dipped, and Buffalo's trying to move on basically from everybody that was there before the current regime got there. So this is a fresh start for Darius. Jacksonville gets to add what could feasibly be another strong piece to their run defense. And basically, Buffalo just gets something for their troubles. In a trade that has happened that had to be reworked, Seattle acquires former Pro Bowl tackle Dwayne Brown from the Texans. And the original deal also had them acquiring that was the deal. The original deal had them trading cornerback Jeremy Lane and a 2019 second-round pick. But now the deal, Jeremy Lane failed his physical with the Texans, so the deal was amended to send the Texans sending a 5th-round pick in 18 to Seattle along with Brown, and Houston acquires a 2018 3rd-round pick and a 2019 2nd-round pick. Now, Dwayne Brown has been outspoken against ownership. He wanted a new contract first, and then he was one of the more outspoken ones against Houston. Texans owner Bob McNair over his statements last week. I'm not going to go into all that. You can look that up if you haven't heard about it already. but he was one of the more outspoken ones there. So basically, he gets a new team. The Texans get some draft capital to replace what they gave up last year to the Browns and during the draft. And one of the bigger surprise trades to come out, San Francisco acquires quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo from the New England Patriots in exchange for a 2018 second-round pick. Now, Garoppolo will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, but you have to think San Francisco is not making this deal unless they think they can get a long-term deal done for Garoppolo. But this also will have something to say about a potential landing spot for Kirk Cousins. In free agency this offseason, is a lot of, everybody just assumed that with Kyle Shanahan there that would be the landing spot for Kirk Cousins, but that doesn't appear to be the case now. And also this would probably, I would imagine, would take San Francisco out of the market for a first round pick at quarterback, and what should be a high first round pick. For New England, they were left without a backup quarterback. Didn't have a practice squad quarterback either, but Brian Hoyer was released by San Francisco in a corresponding move when they acquired Garoppolo, and he immediately signed with New England because he's familiar with their system. Philadelphia acquires running back Jay Ajayi from the Dolphins for a 2018 fourth-round pick. The move was a little surprising to me, but Adam Gase, the head coach of the Dolphins, is basically trying to change the culture and attitude of his team, and Ajayi was the one that was made an example of here. Take it for what you will by making an example of somebody by sending them to a Super Bowl contender, but hey. But there also seems to be he was drafted in the 5th round when he came out, only because it was questioned about the health of his knees. That could play a part in this trade as well. The Jets acquired cornerback Rashard Robinson from the 49ers for a 2018 5th-round pick. Robinson was a 3rd-round pick a few years ago. He's more athlete than football player, but he's got potential to be good, and that's basically what the Jets are gambling on here. And this actually was the most shocking trade. Carolina trades wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin to Buffalo for a 2018 3rd-round pick and 7th-round pick. Benjamin's was the leading receiver for the Panthers 2 of the last 3 years. Big-bodied red zone target. Will definitely help the Bills in that regard. But Carolina seems like they're just basically I don't know what they're doing, because now I don't even know who's their go-to guy now. I have no idea. Christian McCaffrey, I guess he's probably their leading reception guy now anyway. But puzzling trade for Carolina, but good trade for Buffalo. And now we're going to talk about a trade that didn't happen. The framework of the deal was agreed upon between the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals were going to send A.J. McCarron to Cleveland in exchange for a 2nd and 3rd-round pick in next year's draft. My guess is the extra 3rd-round pick was basically the in-division trade rate there for the Bengals to agree to trade somebody within the division. But the Bengals sent the paperwork into the NFL, but the Browns did not. Until after the deadline had passed, the NFL would not allow it to go through, and here we are. The stories coming out were everywhere, but the one that seems to have the most merit is Hugh Jackson wanted McCarron. Ownership signed off on it, but the front office basically vetoed, or by veto, they basically dicked around long enough to where the trade didn't go through, and so they got their way. In reality, I think that probably is the best thing for Cleveland. As a Bengals fan, it sucks because I would have loved to have 2 top 100 picks, but for Cleveland, I don't know that the trade would have helped them all that much. But just goes to show you that the Browns are just a dumpster fire of an organization. And as inept as the Bengals front office is, and as inept as their coaching staff is, it's good to know they're not the most in the NFL, because that will firmly stay in Berea, Ohio. So that's all the news there. We've talked 10 minutes now before we even got to game one of the preview. So this is going to be a long one. So let's get to, like I said, last night, Ohio and Miami, Ohio played. That is one of the games I'm watching this week. Ohio won that game. I'll talk about it in the review on the Cheapest Meal podcast. So let's get to the previews. Tonight at 7 o'clock, ESPN2, Central Michigan's at Western Michigan. It's that time of year where the MAC conference does not play a game on Saturday anymore. All their games will be Tuesday through Friday for the duration of the season. Maction, hashtag Maction. I love it. But it's a good chance for guys like me who their games are going to get lost on Saturdays and you're watching the other games. So this is a good chance to get a look at some MAC players that are going to be available for the upcoming draft. Two of those guys playing in this game. Central Michigan senior tight end Tyler Conklin. I've spoke about him before. One of my top tight end prospects in this draft. 6'4", 240, former basketball player. Has great hands, runs terrific routes. He was injured earlier in the season, so he's just now getting back into the groove of their offense. Western Michigan, you got to look for here is number 4, senior corner and return specialist Darius Phillips, 5'10", 190. I've heard a lot of good things about Phillips, but haven't really what you call concentrated on him, so I'm anxious to get a look at him in this game tonight. Tomorrow night, 5 p.m. on ESPNU, Northern Illinois at Toledo. Got a taste of Northern Illinois last week, and several defenders that I really liked on their team. Like Sutton Smith, their redshirt sophomore edge rusher. So we'll get a look at those guys. And for Toledo, we're just going to get some more get my eyeballs back on Logan Woodside, their senior quarterback, a guy I wrote up over the summer. He's a mid-range quarterback prospect in this draft. Friday night at 5 o'clock on CBS Sports Network is Marshall and Florida Atlantic. For Marshall, it's another look at junior quarterback Chase Litton. Florida Atlantic, I currently don't have anybody on my watch list for them, but Lane Kiffin, their head coach, has that team dominating on offense. I mean, they're putting up big-time points, big-time yardage. So maybe somebody will stand out in this game to me for a draft perspective. Also Friday night, 9:30 p.m. on FS1 is UCLA at Utah. For UCLA, their junior quarterback Josh Rosen, one of the top prospects in the draft for me and my number 1 rated quarterback. He left the game against Washington with a finger injury. Hopefully he should play Friday. I don't think it was too serious. For Utah, we'll get a look at senior linebacker number 5, Kavika Laufatasaga. Yeah, I butchered that. But 6'4", 235 linebacker for the Utes. Let's go on to Saturday now. At 11 a.m. on ESPN, it's Auburn at Texas A&M. Interesting matchup if we get to see it. If they line up against each other, I think it'll be a good matchup. For Texas A&M, their junior wide receiver and one of the top wide receiver prospects in this draft, number 3, Christian Kirk, 5'11", 200. And Auburn junior corner, Carlton Davis, number 6, 6'1", 195. If they match up, it should be a good matchup. Kansas State at Texas Tech. We tried to watch Kansas State a few weeks ago, but lightning delay, and I didn't get around to watching. So this will be my first time getting an eyes on the Wildcats, and they play at 11 a.m. on Fox Sports 1. For Kansas State, a couple of junior wide receiver prospects. Number 9, Byron Pringle, is 6'2", 205 receiver, and number 4, Dominique Heath, is a 5'9", 175 guy. For Texas Tech, junior linebacker and JUCO transfer Dakota Allen, number 40, 6'1", 235. The game I watched a couple weeks ago with Texas Tech, he kind of jumped out at me. So he's a guy I want to get a further look at. 2 p.m. on ESPN Extra, if you have DirecTV and maybe Uverse or something, you should have it available. If not, it'll be on the Watch ESPN app or the ESPN app, whatever they're doing it on now. North Dakota State at South Dakota State. Big battle in the Missouri Valley Conference. Gonna keep our eye on a couple of junior underclass quarterback prospects for North Dakota State. Number 12, Easton Stick, 6'2", 215. And South Dakota State, super athlete, can also throw the ball a little bit. And I've talked ad nauseum about Dallas Goddard and Jake Weineke, his two go-to targets. But number 3, Taryn Christian, a 6'2", 215 quarterback. He can run, but he can also throw the ball a little bit. He's erratic. He has his accuracy fluctuates from game to game, but he's a guy to keep an eye on. 2:30 on ABC, Clemson at NC State, and I feel comfortable saying that every player that starts, and even some of the backups for NC State and Clemson along their front fours on defense, will play in the NFL. At least in a camp. Maybe not on an active roster, but they're all going to be in at least a camp. Some of them are going to be first-round picks. Some of them are going to be high first-round picks, like Bradley Chubb, Cleveland Farrell. So that's basically, watch that in this game. Watch the front fours for each defense, and you'll be just fine. 2:30 on ESPN2 is Iowa State and West Virginia. Another look at the Cyclones, who were shocking the world. Shocked TCU last week, shocked Oklahoma a few weeks ago. Now they try to go beat West Virginia, who's been a bit iffy these last few weeks. For Iowa State, their senior receiver and their top prospect is number 5, Alan Lazard. Trying to stop him will be West Virginia senior corner number 20, Corey Winfield, a 6'1", 190 corner. 2:30 on CBS, South Carolina at Georgia. South Carolina's first time on CBS at 2:30. I should say the 2:30 time slot on CBS in like 3 years. Their main duties will be stopping Georgia's run game, which has been just obliterating opponents. And that's because they have 2 stud senior running backs, Nick Chubb, number 27, 5'10", 220, and Sony Michel, number 1, 5'11", 212. 2 distinctly different running styles for the 2. Chubb will grind it out and has breakaway speed, where Michel is more of a, I don't want to call him a scat back, but he's definitely got he's got more breakaway speed than Chubb does, I believe. For South Carolina, a couple of interior defensive linemen to look at that will try to help slow the running game down is number 90, senior Taylor Stallworth, 6'2", 305, and number 93, senior Ulrich Jones, 6'5", 312. Those guys, they'll rotate in and out, but they're South Carolina's 2 predominant run stuffers. So hopefully they'll be able to slow down the Georgia run game. 6:30 on the SEC Network is Southern Miss at Tennessee. Tennessee is Butch Jones has got to be a dead man walking at this point. For Tennessee, we'll look at number 99, Khalil McKenzie, their senior defensive lineman, 6'3", 325. For Southern Miss, I really like their senior running back, number 25, Ito Smith, 5'9", 195. He catches the ball well. I'm going to be higher on him than most. I understand this. 7 p.m. on ABC is Virginia Tech at Miami. Whoever wins this game will probably represent their division in the ACC championship game. Virginia Tech, the Edmonds brothers, number 49, Tremaine, junior linebacker, 6'4", 236. And number 22, Terrell Edmonds, a junior safety, 6', 202. Those are the guys to watch out for the Hokies. For Miami, let's keep an eye out on senior receiver return specialist number 8, Braxton Berrios, a slot receiver at the next level, but can also return punts, 5'9", 186. And 7 p.m. on CBS is LSU at Alabama, and it's the annual NFL Draft Talent Preview game. If you just watch this game, close your eyes, point your finger at the TV screen, you got a 50-50 odds on probably, at worst, putting your finger on an NFL player. I mean, that's the truth. Just loads of talent on that field. That's going to do it for this very long edition of the Cheat Meal this week. As always, follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/DeepFriedDraft. Subscribe to the videos on YouTube, the YouTube channel Deep Fried Draft, so you get updated when these videos go up. And also download the Bumpers app in the App Store on iOS, and subscribe there, and you can hear the Cheapest Meal podcast. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time.